Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is BarkBits, and this is another top 10 list. With this, I'm going to do the top 2000 to 2010 Disney movies. Now, these are movies I actually don't plan on reviewing unless you guys twist my arm about it, because after the 90s, Disney was kind of seen to go into a bit of a dark ages phase, and these movies weren't quite as good as their previous movies. But I'm going to give you a list of the top 10. Now, I may mostly be talking in this list as if it's my opinion, but I did number them as a general overview of the movies. Hence why sometimes you'll hear me go, I don't know why this is so low on the list, because I really like it or whatever. It's because I listed them in their general acceptance and general quality. But here we go, the top 10 2000 to 2010 Disney movies. Number 10, Treasure Planet. I'm gonna be honest, this movie is a bit of a taboo in my family, as my cousin was signed on to do the sequel. The movie didn't make enough money to warrant a sequel, so he got fired, lost his job, and a bad time was had by all. I did, however, sneak out to see the movie and found I really enjoyed it. And I'm a fan of the book, so that's saying something. Don't tell my family, but this movie is actually a really good one. Number 9, Dinosaur. Shut up, it's beautiful. I'm the type of person who can really be sold on a movie if one aspect of it is brilliant, and this movie is amazingly beautiful. The story is very Land Before Time, and the characters aren't particularly interesting, but the backgrounds are actual Earth backgrounds with CGI characters on top, and it looks amazing. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Number 8, Fantasia 2000. I'm a big fan of the original Fantasia movie, so I had very high standards with this. Did they meet them? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it definitely didn't have the dignity the first one did, mainly with the people talking between the segments. The segments themselves were fine, and I loved them. Some were stupid, but they were usually short, so it didn't really matter. Some were stellar and were just groundbreaking. But then we had to have the celebrity cameos in the middle. Outside of that, though, the movie was spectacular. Number 7, Atlantis: The Lost Empire. There's really only one problem I have with this movie, and unfortunately it's a pet peeve, so it's really distracting for me, but square fingers, why? I'm sorry, that really annoys me throughout the movie. I mean, Kida is my favorite character purely on the virtue that she's the only character without square fingers. Square fingers, why? But as a whole, the movie is a great adventure. It is fantastic in style and animation, and the characters are very well developed and thought out, and it's great fun all around. Number 6, Brother Bear. I'm going to be honest, I saw this movie just so I could say I've seen every Disney animated film. I really expected very little out of this movie, and I actually was quite surprised. It's very thought out, or at least parts of it are. Some of the comedic relief can be annoying, like the moose and such, but the parts at the beginning and the end and all the emotional moments really get you. And yeah, some of the plot line is really predictable, but for the whole, it's a very heartfelt movie, and it's worth a watch. Number 5, The Princess and the Frog. I'm going to be honest, I was so excited for this movie. Finally, they were going back to the princess stories with 2D animation, and after what seemed like decades of waiting, we finally got an African-American princess. No, Nala does not count. And we got introduced to a new culture. I always love when Disney focuses on a culture. We got the whole New Orleans thing going, which Disney always does really well. And I love this movie, and I don't understand why people don't. People don't. Some people don't. I love it. It is really up there with all the other princess movies. Now, it is in the princess movie category and not movies as a whole, but it is really well done. Number 4, Meet the Robinsons. I think of all the movies on this list, this one surprised me the most. In fact, I only really saw this movie by chance. I think I happened to rent it or something, and it really stuck with me. And the funny thing is, what I like about this movie is the moral, which is something I usually don't tag on to. And when I do, it's usually a moral that I know and I think more people should be aware of. Like, oh yeah, you should be such and such like me. But rather with this one, I'm actually focusing on a moral that I have trouble with. Looking to the future and forgetting about the past, I have trouble with that. And I don't know, maybe that's why I love this movie, but I do. Number 3, Lilo and Stitch. Much like Princess and the Frog, I like this movie because it's focusing on a culture, and I love the whole Hawaiian thing they've got going. Also, they've got Pacific Islanders as main characters, which they haven't done before. And the relationship between the sisters is beautiful. Stitch is adorable. I'm not a huge fan of the whole sci-fi plot line that goes on throughout the movie, but the rest of the movie is so brilliant. This is actually one that I had to have my arm twisted to see because I wasn't really excited about it, but I understand why people love it. Again, I'm not as huge a fan of Stitch as everybody else, but hey, I love it still. Number 2, The Emperor's New Groove. This movie is hilarious, and Disney's not usually adept to doing comedies. In fact, the funny thing is, this movie also has the whole square finger problem that the Atlantis movie had. But you know what? It's not focusing on the animation. For the first time, Disney doesn't care about the animation as much as the writing. And it works so well. It's so hilarious, especially things involving the villains. The rest of the movie is pretty much a buddy film, but it's just well-timed, well-written, and one of the few Disney movies that created memes, flat-out memes. I mean, we were reciting these lines in school all the time. Number 1, Tangled. I hate this movie, and I hate it because I love it. Let me explain. When I first heard of this movie, it was called Rapunzel, and I was seeing these 2D sketches, and I was just as excited as I was for Princess and the Frog. Yes, they're going back to the princesses, they're going back to 2D, everything's gonna be fine, Disney's gonna come out of this. And then it turned into Tangled, and then it was 3D, and then I just felt betrayed. And so I saw this movie out of defiance. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was hating on. And then I saw it, and it was awesome. And I hate it for being awesome. And mainly, it's the music. Damn you, Alan Menken, and your beautiful music that always drags me back into these wonderful movies. Well, there you go. They're my top 10 2000 to 2010 Disney movies. Should you see them? Yeah, they're definitely worth at least one watch. Some of them, multiple. Some of them you should own on Blu-ray and watch all the time. Dang you, Tangled. But I'd say that even in Disney's dark age, they can really produce fantastic movies, and even though they may not quite be to par of their old stuff or their really old stuff, it is still Disney all the way through.